knows a hell of a lot about it. Let's be clear about that right away. We
Yeah,
know
sure.
that. Would you have been mad or upset had they taken that number 2 pick and traded back to try
No,
to no. You guys you're
would have loved
completely
it. Would have been on board.
okay.
On board because they could have gotten a Quentin Nelson or someone like that, right? So when you're picking second, like we are often, it seems, you kind of, even like I'm a fan of the team too. So you list about 10 guys, you say, I'm okay with any of these 10 guys. All right. Even if it's like a Minka Fitzpatrick, if you trade back to 7 and get him, I was really into that draft. So, depending on what you got, if you got another first rounder out of it and then you took a Quentin Nelson, I mean, you can't be upset with that. So even this year, right? Like obviously I want Chase Young. He looks like the best defender in college football. And the Giants are picking second right now. And if Cincinnati takes a quarterback, then the Giants get Chase Young. But if they trade back and get multiple picks in the first round and take other defenders, it's not something that I'd be too upset about. So as long as they come away with another first round pick, I don't think you're ever too upset when you're trading back, unless it's a perfect time where need fits best player. But the Giants need so much that you almost behooves you. You should really trade back. So
Well, with this deep wide receiver core, I mean, if they do trade back, Giants need that right now, and they need that weapon across from Sterling Shepard. Would you want to go ahead and grab one of these stud wide receivers in the first round? There's a huge list of them this year.
only if you can guarantee me a stud offensive lineman along with it, right?
True.
Because what
Thank
Jerry
you.
Re- what Jerry Reese did for too long was just build the skill positions and not the trenches. So, Odell Beckham Jr. is nice, but we lost with him, lost a playoff game, as you guys know, and didn't win with him. So we can lose without him.
Can
You need to build the trenches. So,
can I just tell you right now, Gettleman confuses me, right? Because like some of the things I see him doing, like with the Saquon pick, I can understand where he's going with it and all that. But then on the same note, honestly, I believe you guys got the better end of the Odell Beckham trade here. And
yeah,
here's why.
yeah.
And tell me if you agree. I am a firm believer that there's no point in buying rims if the Ferrari's motor don't run. Okay?
Yeah,
And
100% right.
and Odell Beckham is a Ferrari, okay, he's the rims of the Ferrari. And you guys traded him away and the Browns gave you their best offensive lineman. Although it's a guard and people think guards don't matter, with all the interior defensive rush nowadays, they matter. And you guys got that, and now they have rims for their Ferrari, but they can't block anybody to get the damn Ferrari the ball consistently. And I think
Well,
that's where you guys
yeah.
won the ball.
Yeah, I'll give you one better. They actually, for Zeitler, they traded Vernon. So he was part of the Vernon trade, which makes it even better. Right, because
Yes.
Olivier Vernon was just injured and did nothing for us, and he's not doing anything there. For Odell, they got the 17th overall pick, which they turned into Dexter Lawrence, who's been very good for them and is an absolute monster on the
I
defensive
loved
line.
him out of Clemson.
Right. They got Jabril Peppers, who actually is probably their best defender. I mean, you can only do so much as with one guy back there. And they got a third round pick, which they turned into O'Shane Zimenez. It's a little bit of a reach, not a reach, but a project, Old Dominion guy in the third round. So I liked it too. When they traded Odell, I was ecstatic. I was like, wow, the distraction's gone. One thing about the Giants, my wife asked me a couple of weeks ago, she said, what's the difference between the Giants and Jets? They both seem to stink. I said, well, the Giants just stink. The Jets have drama and they stink. The Giants have no drama. They're kind of boring, which I kind of like again. So it's a matter of just getting better players in.
Yeah,
And
they're
with
not.
Odell gone, I was happy.
That's the difference. The Jets are flashy, but they never win. So they're
Right.
flashy in losing. The Giants, whether they're winning or losing, they're like just plain vanilla ice cream blue collar.
Yep. Yeah.
Like,
And I like it that
that's
way.
okay. That's okay because the Packers are kind of a lot like that. Like us fans make it flashy, but a lot of people are like, yeah, Green Bay, nobody cares. Like it's Green
Yeah,
Bay.
I mean, I can't think of. I mean, I'm trying to think of the last guy who was like a lightning rod on your team. I don't. I'm really having trouble thinking about it right now. So I think that's a good thing. I would rather be that way than be an attention grabber and still not be very good in football. Had not have a very good record like it was with Odell Beckham.
Well, you know what? Let's get out of this rabbit hole right here. And I got a question starting off. It
Yep.
is the Giants and the Packers obviously are some of the bigger moments in NFL history, and they combined for 19 NFL titles, which is a huge number because of the amount of teams don't even have titles before the NFL merger. So, do you feel the Giants having 6 total titles, are they among the elite ring of teams, being that they are older along with the Packers and the Bears and such?
Yeah, I think so. I think when a team starts to struggle, you kind of lose sight of that. But look, the Giants won it in what, 27, 34, 38, 56, 86, 90, 07, 11. So I think they have 8. Yeah, I mean,
sorry about that.
That's okay. No, I mean, they came into the league after the Packers and the Bears. Like, they're the two that you think of when you think of the old NFL. Giants came in 1925, purchased, I think, Tim Mara spent $500 for him. And New York needed a team. So football went over in New York before it was it was considered pro wrestling, and it took off and eventually became what it is today. So I think you needed that team in New York. But yeah, I think when you think of the old NFL, you think of the Bears and Packers first. And then right after that, you think of, I know a lot about the history of the NFL. I would think of like Chicago Cardinals and, the Giants and the Providence Steamrollers. I mean, I'm a kind of a savant with that stuff. So yeah, I think the Giants are in that category. Sure.
Well, I mean, then, speaking of certain players in the little bit newer era of football, there's 3 players I loved for the Giants that I got to watch on live TV. It was LT, Tiki Barber, and Jeremy Shockey. Is there any Packers players that you watched over how long you've been alive that you've wanted on the Giants and never got to see?
Yeah, I would say 2 that I saw, 1 that I didn't see based on his numbers. He had like Wayne Gretzky-like numbers when he retired. Don Hudson. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but he played in the 30s, and his numbers were relevant until the 80s. Like Charlie Joyner and Steve Largent were like breaking his records. It's like, who the hell is Don Hudson? I even know who he was. I'm a kid in the 80s watching football. Yeah. Like, Dad, who the hell is Don Hudson? And he's like, oh, he was great. And so I would say him just because of how dominant he was. And then I would probably, I'd go with Reggie White just to stick it to the Eagles. He was with the Eagles and he was great with the Packers.
The rivalry never dies.
Yeah, I mean, teaming him up with LT on the opposite side or the same side would have been fun to watch. And I go Aaron Rodgers. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I know he has 1 championship, but can make a play on any down. I think he's ridiculous. I like him so much better than I liked Favre. I would go those 3 guys.
He just got brownie points with me. I'm a huge Rodgers over Favre guy. I love Favre, but I'm a Rodgers guy.
I was gonna say here, no, let's not disparage the good man's name to lift up a great. Okay, they're both great. Like, I grew up. If I turned my camera right now, Jerry, you'd realize how blasphemous those sentences were now.
Well, no, you know why? Here's why. It's all very
big There's a big difference in Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is, by every metrics, a better quarterback, but a better competitor, a better inspirational guy, a better entertainer on the field, a guy that you feel like you're never out even when you're down 5 scores. Like, I hate to say it, I can call an Aaron Rodgers game like last Sunday, like the first fumble. Yep, I looked at his face. He fumbled. They're out. They're done. Yeah, I could never do that with Favre. And so that bothers me at my core, and it pisses my wife off to the killer. She absolutely hates Aaron Rodgers because of that right there, because I actually swung her into football Sundays through the Monday night 2003 day after his father passed game. That's how I got my wife to lay off on football on Sundays.
Yeah, I think it's always personal. And I remember the 90s when Favre and the Packers just could not beat the Cowboys. And I just was like, I can't, like when the Giants stink, it's like you're just relying on other teams to beat the Cowboys and Eagles for me. And in the 90s, it was like he couldn't get past them. And that's what I remember mostly. I know he was great. But he just was the guy who always came up short against the Cowboys, and it drove me crazy. So unfortunately, it's a little too personal. And
that's why I hate the Cowboys. Right there, right there. What you just said is why
that's why Jerry loves Rodgers. Right there, because he's the Cowboy killer.
Yes, that's right. When what was that? That 4th and whatever he completed a couple of years ago was ridiculous. Playing the playoffs.
The one to Cookie on the sideline.
Yeah, it was insane.
There's nothing that brings me more joy than to watch Aaron Rodgers rip the hopes and dreams out of the Dallas Cowboys as they're trying to party in Jerry Dome. And this time, what made it even better this year, I don't know about you, Jerry, but what made it even better was the game comments that they were making about how he's comfortable there. It's like a second home. He won his Super Bowl there. I mean, if you can't slap Jerry Jones up in the face personally, there isn't a better way to do it with words than how Aaron Rodgers and some of those guys talked about going down there to play and how comfortable it was and everything. You know that had to get in Jerry's craw. That just, oh.
Yeah, I mean, also they built a stadium where it's everything's a distraction for them, right? There's not really a home field advantage at that stadium. Yep. It's nice as hell. Right. It's not like going to Lambeau. I mean, you go to AT&T Stadium and it's like a shopping mall with a huge screen in the middle and no one's paying attention. So there's no home field advantage. It's almost easier to do it there than to do it, at MetLife. Half the stadium's Cowboys fans, the frauds from the Northeast. So, it's always a pleasure for a team to go down there, I'm sure, to beat and rub it in Jerry Jones' face.
Yeah, I mean, as you just said earlier, the Favre era, we could never beat the Cowboys. It always was Achilles' heel. So that's what makes us all this better, is because all we've heard through the whole 90s, 2000s, the Super Bowls. So when Rodgers comes to town, I swear every Dallas's fans' face, including Jerry Jones, just turns bright green with envy because they don't know what to do to stop. I call Rodgers the boogeyman for Dallas. Is the guy they never want to see at any point, even if he's 1-15, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, they can't beat him. And to be honest, I mean, look, Dak Prescott is a product of his offensive line. I think he's an average to above average quarterback. So when it comes down to it, you have Aaron Rodgers versus Dak Prescott. It's not even close. So
we've been trying to tell people this, and like if you don't like the Cowboys, you're hoping like God they pay Dak Prescott, because this minute they pay him more over $25 million, which is way over
their young core
players, they will start to crumble and become just the disaster that we know and love. And I really hope they do pay him, because I think they will, unless he keeps playing like he is. He is right now. Every game he fumbles and messes up, you can just see there's $1 million. There's $1 million.
Oh yeah. And guys like Amari Cooper, they're going to lose, who's a really good receiver, and you're going to see how bad Dak Prescott is when he loses.
First for him too.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you can't sign everybody. So.
Well, you know what?
You better get us out of this rabbit hole now, too, buddy.
I've got a question that's not bugging me. I have my answer for it, but I got to see. I figure where you stand, Jerry, but I want to hear it explained a little bit more.
Sure.
Do you think Eli Manning belongs in the Hall of Fame? I do. I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I think the further you get away from the game, yes. It's hard to take away the 2 Super Bowl MVPs and how well he played in the playoffs those years, right? It's one thing to just do well in the Super Bowl. You can make the argument that in '86, and I'm not disparaging Sims, I love Sims, but you can make the argument that the defense carried him in the playoffs. I know they won 49-3 to the 49ers, but the running game was insane. Sims played well, but in the Super Bowl, he was ridiculous. I think Eli Manning, especially in 2011, carried that team on his back. I mean, they were 9-7. I think he had 4,800 yards passing that year, and I mean, look, I know that he's had as many losses as wins in the regular season, and he's got a lot of interceptions, but it's very hard to take those 2 things away, especially when you see Daniel Jones struggling now. They're still 2-9. It's hard to imagine they'd be worse with Eli right now, because the line stinks. The line's been bad for years. Jerry Reese and Mark Ross ruined his prime. He should have been protected better, and they were just giving him wide receivers with no protection. So he won't be a first ballot, but I do believe he'll get in, 3rd or 4th try.
Yeah, I think he should be in. I mean, as you just said, the 2 of the biggest moments was against the Patriots. That's the big, bad, ugly in the Super Bowl, and they're very, very hard to beat. And I'm still surprised how the Eagles did it, but I mean, still. This perfect season on the line, Eli Manning walks up and spits in the big bad ugly's face, slaps him across the face, walks out with a W. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I think